Alright, it is time to rebind this crazy journal. First I grab my gaffer tape. I will link that below if you're interested in purchasing it, some scissors and an X-Acto knife just in case. If you missed the flip through of this journal, I'll have it linked below and above in the iCard. This journal is so crazy full of stuff, so I couldn't really rebind it the way that I normally rebind something because I created on the covers. So oftentimes I detach the cover and reattach them, but I couldn't do that in this journal. So the first thing I did was cut off the spine, and then I'm trying to kind of spread the spine out to make it larger. I find that when I rebind a journal, it is different every time. It depends on the journal, it depends on what's inside, it depends on how the journal was created, how much mess is on the inside. So this one was a challenge. After cutting off the spine, I tried to create a new spine and spreading those pages or those covers apart to try to kind of square up the journal. As you can see, this left a really big gap there on that right side, and not so much on left, but mostly on the right, and I need to heal this gap up. So sometimes I can do this with glue, but in this case, because I created on the covers, I didn't want to add another wet medium, so I'm using some of the white gaffer tape to heal this spine a little bit. I'm trying to tape that front and the back on to add some integrity to the binding. A side note here, this isn't perfect. This isn't like how a bookbinder would do it. To me, this is just an art journal. It doesn't really matter. Most people would say use some crazy nice good bookbinding tape. I find that gaffer tape works really well. I love the feel of it. It's kind of soft, it's really pliable, it sticks super well. This is the kind of tape that's used like on cords during recording or TV shows or concerts. It's what sticks the cords down to the floor. And so it's just a really strong, great tape. It comes in several different sizes and colors. And so you can choose ones to match your journal or not match your journal, whatever. So back to what I'm doing after that side note. Again, I'm adding some integrity to the spine. I'm connecting that front and the back a little bit better. I apologize when it goes off screen a few times. I had to pull the journal closer to me to see it, and it kind of goes off screen. But I'm squeezing the journal, pulling it apart, forming it, trying to make it square because it was really fanned out. This isn't going to be a perfect binding. My basic goal here was to allow it to sit on a shelf and not be so fanned and make it a little bit more square. So now that I have that kind of accomplished, I'm going to start the process of adding a spine to it. To help it square up even more, first I'm going to add pieces of the black gaffer tape just across it. It's going to shore up what I just did, make the spine a little bit stronger, kind of create it a little bit more square. Again, every journal is different. This is just the process that I use to fix this wonky, crazy, fanned out journal. So now that I have the journal like squared up and almost kind of like a perfect shape and flat and not so fanned out, technically you could call this done, but it's kind of ugly. I didn't do a very good job of making that tape perfect. The spine looks crazy. So now I'm kind of adding the pretty to the journal. I'm going to create a spine, and I like to fold over the edges so that the tops aren't sticky. And I'm going to make this so that the spine is pretty. Now, as I'm doing this, I come up with a bright idea. See how it's kind of caved in there because of the wonkiness of my pages? I decided to add some cardboard there to create a faux spine. Now, I should have thought about this before, and I could have created it a little bit better, and that's when it kind of gets a little kind of crazy looking and folded over. But I'm going to remember this technique in the future because it ended up squaring up my spine, and now that edges of the book don't stand out so much. But because I kind of thought about this last minute, you can see there's extra little creases there on the tape. So now I'm going to create the pretty all over again. Now I'm going to cover up that ugly, the creasing, the funny looks, the stuff from the cardboard. I'm going to again fold over my edges so that they're not sticky. And this is going to be the final layer of that spine. So here's where I'm folding off the edge of the top part. Again, it kind of just gives it a finished look. This is personal preference. It's not sticky on the edge, and it just looks like a real book spine to me. Now I'm going to cover up the ugly on the sides of the journal. Lots of times I'll actually take this tape to the inside of the journal, but again, I couldn't do that because I created on the inside covers. So I'm just taking it kind of to the edge and folding it over just a little bit so it doesn't affect the artwork on the inside, but also to make it look a little bit more finished. And the same process on the other side, covering up all my crazy tape, making it look just a little bit more finished, cutting it off on the edges and folding it over just a tiny bit. And that's it. It is so simple to rebind a journal. The challenge becomes when the journal is crazy and wonky and it's different. This is how I ended up binding this one, but I'm sure the next journal is going to be different. I hope you learned how to just shore up a journal a little bit more to make it not fanned and allow it to sit on your shelf and easier to flip through. Again, if you didn't see the flip through, that'll be linked above and below. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions on my process, feel free to leave them below because I'm sure I forgot to cover something. Thanks so much.